Haunting on Clare Street. Chapter 1. A viewer shared their eerie experiences with me, and together, we're about to delve into the chilling details. This true story recounts a young couple's chilling first encounter with a haunted house that cast a long shadow over their lives. They faced not just a haunted location, but a presence that followed them, haunting their every step. In the year 2000, at just 19 years old, my partner Jason and I were living in a small, cramped, two-bedroom unit in Brisbane, Australia. We longed for more space and found a promising three-bedroom, one-bathroom house in an old, tree-lined suburb. The rent was attractively below market rate, and the tenants were moving out before the end of their lease, offering us a perfect opportunity to move. When I asked one of the tenants why he was leaving after only 3 months, he simply replied, "Oh, things changed," his voice tinged with an evasive undertone that piqued my curiosity. Despite this, I chose not to pry further, intrigued but cautious. Initially, everything appeared normal. Jason and I both worked late shifts at the local meatworks, typically returning home between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. We drove separate cars to accommodate our varying schedules. One night, arriving home around 12:30 a.m., I was surprised to find that many lights were on inside, which was unusual given our tight budget. Entering the house, an eerie sensation washed over me, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I tried to brush off the unsettling feeling and waited for Jason's return. He was adamant he hadn't left any lights on, attributing the anomaly to our overtired minds. However, this issue with the lights persisted almost daily. We kept meticulous notes on which lights we left on, yet each morning we discovered different lights switched on. Initially dismissing it as faulty wiring, we were baffled when we found that the switches were physically flipped to the on positions. Jason, ever the skeptic of the paranormal, searched for logical explanations. The mysterious incidents escalated after 2 months. Lights flickered ominously, and sometimes, when I was alone, they would turn off as I entered her room. The disturbances peaked one night when I awoke around 3 a.m. to the sound of men having a raucous party, yet there were no actual parties, and the atmosphere was thick with terror. I lay frozen in bed for hours, the eerie sounds enveloping the darkness. In the morning, Jason confessed he too had heard the unsettling noises, though he couldn't make out the words. A brief period of calm ensued, only for the situation to darken. The cold tap in the shower began turning on by itself, not merely dripping but gushing, requiring multiple turns to be shut off. This frequent occurrence led even Jason to question his disbelief in the paranormal, as there was no logical explanation for the tap's behavior. One afternoon, after Jason left for work, I prepared to shower before a colleague was due to pick me up. As I gathered my clothes, the house felt oppressively heavy, urging me to flee. Approaching the bathroom, I encountered a young girl, around 10 years old, with thin black hair in 2 long plaits, wearing a blue dress. She looked up with a horrifying grin, her hands clutching her skirt. Paralyzed with fear, I dropped everything and fled outside, waiting there, crying, until my colleague arrived. She escorted me back inside, where we discovered the shower running and all lights ablaze, despite my certainty that I hadn't turned them on. That night, I detailed the terrifying events to Jason. His skepticism waned, and he agreed we should consider moving. Contacting the real estate agent the next day, we learned the house had a history of short-term tenants, dismissed simply as bad luck. Discussing relocation seemed to provoke whatever haunted the house. I saw the girl multiple times afterward, compelling us to decide to leave. One night, awakened by loud laughter and the pungent smell of cigar smoke, Jason and I confronted the sight of 4 men and 2 women in our dining room, resembling a scene from an old saloon. They stared back eerily before vanishing, leaving behind only the lingering scent of smoke. Panicked, we retreated, only for the stereo to blare at full volume, abruptly stopping before we reached it, despite being unplugged. The disturbances intensified. Shadows darted across walls and objects disappeared or appeared in odd places. Both of us suffered severe nightmares, and in one, the young girl whispered in an indecipherable language at the foot of my bed. I woke up screaming with scratch marks on my arms. Days later, the sound of shattering glass jolted us awake. We found every kitchen cupboard open, glassware shattered, and furniture bizarrely rearranged overnight. Soon after, Jason, having seen a dark, glowing-eyed figure vanish in our living room, acknowledged the grave reality we faced. We packed our essentials and left to stay with a friend. After moving out, we thought our ordeal was over, but soon after settling into our new home, faint knocking and sudden cold spots began again. One evening, after some drinks with friends, we foolishly used a Ouija board to communicate with the entity. The planchette moved independently, chillingly spelling out, "I followed you." If you're intrigued to hear more about their ordeal and the subsequent events in the new house, let me know. This haunting experience has forever altered their lives, and they continue to grapple with the trauma of those harrowing months.